Men of Reddit, in what ways have you experienced sexism? I am a social worker, so I do a lot of home visits for the children I work with. I had a single mom that was obsessed with me. It started out as just inappropriate comments which I kind of brushed off, but then it started getting extremely sexual in nature, like telling me she could fuck better than my wife, telling me how good she is at giving head, etc. I tried to explain to her that I am only in her home for professional reasons and it's extremely inappropriate. Told my boss and he didn't seem to care and told me to man up and just deal with it. It got worse, and she started sending me pictures of her tits and ass, and I took that to my boss and told him I no longer wanted that family on my caseload due to sexual harassment. His reply was, "Stop being a bitch." I went to HR that day, and my boss was let go a week later. I'd also like to add that isn't that uncommon in my field, but it usually never gets this out of control. I work with a lot of single mothers, and they see a man come into their home and work and play with their child, and they see you as a savior of some sorts, or like the missing link to having a normal family. I've gotten a lot of late-night drunk calls, texts which I will usually respond with, "If your child is not in crisis, please do not contact me during these hours." After I communicate that, they almost always stop. A teacher told me that she would have given me an A grade for the year if I wasn't male, as she only awarded A grades to girls, as they had fewer academic advantages. I think she may have had a few issues. This was, scarily, 30 years ago, so I expect the teacher in question has retired by now. My girlfriend, at the time, repeatedly hit me, scratched me, ripped my shirt, and ripped the rear view mirror off my car while I was driving. I drove her to her mother's while this was happening. When we got there, she refused to get out. Me and her younger sister, who came out after we got there, both had to physically pull her out of the car. She kept trying to get back in. I finally got her out and locked the doors and drove away. When I got on the highway, 3 cop cars were waiting for me. They charged me with assault, despite the fact that I was visibly battered with red marks, scratches and a ripped shirt, and the inside of my car was trashed. Their justification? Her face was red. Yeah, her face was red. She was having a mental breakdown and crying non-stop because I told her I was leaving her. $700 lost because they towed my car. I was also in the middle of applying for RCMP training at this time, had nearly aced the aptitude test, but couldn't continue because of the pending charge. I also missed out on another job that I knew I was going to get when the criminal record check came back with the dismissed assault charge. TLDR. Girlfriend beat me up, I got charged with assault, lost $700 and missed out on 2 career opportunities. LPT. In Canada, if you're charged with something, even if it's dismissed or dropped and you're not convicted, the charge will still show up on a deep criminal background check. After a certain period, I think 6 months, you can call the courthouse and tell them you want your record purged to remove these charges for free. For clarification on how this is sexist. My girlfriend didn't press charges, the police did. Someone in the car behind us saw a struggle and phoned it in. Sexism on the police's part. Had a friend with a very similar story. Long story short, his girlfriend cheated on him at a party he was at. Some random guys told him about it, and even her female friends admitted it. He couldn't leave her at the party because she was an hour from home, so he gave her a ride. He was 20, she was 17. He was worried about getting an endangering a minor charge for leaving her there. Halfway through the ride, she started kicking and punching him while he was driving. She wanted him to let her out in the middle of nowhere New England in sub-zero temperatures. He refused to let her out until he dropped her off safe at home. He came to my house the next morning covered in bruises and scratch marks. She had no marks and he was covered. I had to turn him into the police, where even the cop was like, "Sorry, I'm just doing my job." He ended up alright. The judge had to convict him of entrapment by law because he wouldn't let her out, but told him it would have been a felony for endangering a minor if he had let her out of his car in the middle of nowhere. He ended up taking some classes he didn't need, paying some fines, and getting a misdemeanor. I have very little access to my kid even though their mother is a drug addict and uses them as a weapon in arguments. I have shown proof of this many times about how unstable she is. But since she is the mother, she has God-given rights to them. Very sad. Was this recent? Can you get custody? My parents divorced 25 years ago, and my mom automatically got custody, even though the reason they divorced was my mom being an alcoholic. It's the biggest bullshit ever. It took my dad 2 years to win custody, and by then they had finally realized it was so severe that my dad had the option to forbid my mom to ever see me again. He didn't, but the judge ruled she was only allowed to see me for 3 hours every 2 weeks. My dad kept watch in his car, and that constant stress has aged him quite a bit. He looks like the oldest of his siblings, while he's actually the youngest. He probably saved my life, and it angers me to hear the system still hasn't learned. Not me, but my dad had an extremely hard time getting full custody of me and my little sister, despite my mom having no place to live, no job, addicted to drugs, and abused us. All because kids need a mom. I'm so sick of courts giving full custody to moms because kids need moms more than dads, when that is bullshit. Kids that grow up without dads are more likely to go into substance abuse, self-harm, and suicide. But kids without moms are less affected. Even if the mom is abusing kids on a daily basis, is an alcoholic drug abuser, homeless lady, she still will get custody over a dad working a six-figure job, has a 4-bed 2-bath house, and if the kid wants to live with the dad. I'm so done with court systems awarding awful women custody over great men. The Department for Gender Equality at my job only accepts women to run the department. Ironic. The department could save others from discrimination, but not itself. When I was abused publicly in a mall by my girlfriend, now ex, no one did anything. I bet if it was the other way around, people would have thrown themselves on me. It sadly often doesn't pay to be helpful. I've been screamed at and shoved by guys after calling out their girlfriends for hitting them. You just end up with two people focused on abusing you instead of stopping a woman from being physically abusive. And I'm a woman, so it's already a scary ordeal. It's just so often too dangerous of a risk. I can also tell you that people don't step in as often as you'd think when men are physical to women. Unfortunately, through experience. Odd one, I don't think it is considered sexism, but my male principal has made it very clear that he dislikes only the men at my school. So myself, along with the other 4 or 5 male teachers out of about 32 staff members, get awful evaluation scores, and he bullshits his reasoning why. We think he just wants to pretend to be top dog. Makes it even sadder when even the female staff say things like, "I can do whatever I want since he likes me." That is literally the definition of sexism. Being assaulted and laughed at. Time to tell my story. I'm 6'4", 240 pounds and used to work as a bouncer. I tried my best not to be aggressive or anything because I know sometimes alcohol leads people into making stupid decisions. So I'd always approach everyone in a very polite, non-threatening way. Usually that worked because it used to de-escalate things and all. One night, this group of girls were starting to create trouble at the club I used to work. When I came to know what was going on and possibly calm things down like I'd ways do, one small intoxicated girl jumped me. She was insane. Screaming, cussing, being loud and racist. I'm Latino, she was white. I tried to calm her down, but since that wasn't working, I told her I was gonna escort her out. I reached for my radio and called for backup. She was with a big group, 7 to 10 girls. Out of nowhere, she started to berate me, trying to scratch my eyes, slashing my neck in the process, trying to kick me in the groin and shit. Other bouncers came and took her off of me. Manager finally showed up. Police was called. When they arrived and collect statements, I came over to them saying I wanted to press changes due to the fact I was bleeding profusely in the neck and hands. They laughed at me, said they won't waste their time, nothing will come out of it. The girls were let go by the pockets and went their way laughing at me. I went over to my manager, complaining he was supposed to help us or something. His response? Man up, clean myself up and get back to work. I did clean myself up, patched my injuries and quit on the spot. F him and F those cops as well. I have a friend who is a cop, and he told me he sometimes found himself in the situation of knowing charges would not stick, even if they were appropriate to be filed. He said he would arrest the offending people anyway because at least they would get a night in jail, or maybe a weekend, before being able to see a judge. Those cops you dealt with were lazy, even if they were being realistic. The lesson that was reinforced to your attacker is that she could do whatever she wanted without punishment. That's messed up. I didn't get a job at a company because the woman who was training me, and I quote, doesn't really like men and refuses to train one. I had signed the contract already and they ripped it up. She was the only one who knew how to do the job, so they had to give her what she wanted. This sounds like a discrimination lawsuit waiting to happen. For a figure drawing class in university, since we didn't have a model for the first week, the professor just told us to go home and draw something with a figure. Anything, literally anything, so long as it had a human figure. I love fantasy art, so I went home and drew a smiling wood nymph sitting nude upon a stump, all covered with mushrooms and flowers. When I presented my drawing the next class, the prof and another student tried to give me shit about objectifying women. It turned into a 20-minute-long spiel about men depicting women in art and how it's bad, and I got a C- as a result. Literally just because I was the only dude who chose to draw a nude woman in a figure drawing class. Slight sexism usually gives me a good chuckle. People can't accept the fact that I'm the primary caregiver for our son. Examples. At his pediatrician's office for a checkup. You probably have to ask your wife, but do you know if he can jump stack 4 blocks, etc. They will also never call me to confirm appointments or for follow-up calls. They always call my wife's number and leave a voicemail despite us asking several times to contact me first. When out and about with my son. Out with dad today, huh? That's fun. Good luck, dad.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Reddit stories. Mothership will be glad with you.